welcome to another episode of Sonic Talk. This is episode 321, and before we go any further, I have to play something because it's in homage to a very rare... well, I'll just play that. This is Mr. Ted Rogers, a giant of British light entertainment and banal quiz show programs. I think this is loosely based on a Spanish program called 123. Here we go.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to another session of 321. Now, that wasn't too quick, was it? Well, try it again. See if you can do it yourself. Go on. Boom, boom, boom.
Anyway, that was said. It's episode 321. What can I say? I was grasping at straws, and I just remembered that there was probably going to be a clip of Ted Rogers doing his 321. If you do it fast enough, nobody can notice you're actually not doing it at all, but he was the master of it. Sadly passed away in 2001, but yes, it started off life as a redcoat. There is no other relevance to this show whatsoever apart from the fact that he presented a program called 321, and this is Sonic Talk episode 321. So anyway, thank you for bearing with me. That was my sort of slightly tangential diversion into ancient British television history, but I want to say thanks also to our sponsors, because obviously we've got Isotope with us, and they've got a message. We've got to announce a winner of last week's competition, and we've got a new competition and a new product, so stay tuned for that. But first, let's say hello to our guests. I'm going to say first, I want to say hi to Mr. Diego Stocco from diegostocco.com. You may know Diego as, he's an arch... Well, basically, your reputation, the only thing everybody actually remembers is you burning a piano and recording it, but you've done so much more brilliant stuff, and you've done something brilliant this week, which is one of the reasons you're on, because you can talk about it. How are you, Diego?
Good. How are you, Nick?
I'm all right. You are in LA, so it's early in the morning. He's made a very special effort to join us, so I really do appreciate that. I think
most of the people are already awake at this time.
Yeah, but you work in the rarefied strata of rock and roll, so getting up before midday is just this must be an alien concept. I am joking, of course.
Yeah, I mean, I just like to work when there's a little bit of silence outside. So
well, yeah, of course, yeah.
You remember here they have the 7 a.m. Lawnmowers, leaf blowers kind of routine going on.
That's right. Actually, last time you were on, we had the leaf blower on.
Yes, and this morning at 7 a.m. they were, cutting the grass in the house in the front. This is ridiculous. It's ridiculous, really. It's...
For a man who records lots of incredibly quiet things, that is just... what you probably need is to build yourself one of those anechoic chambers that sort of... a couple of 100 feet underground that you could just kind of completely submerge yourself away from.
I thought about, finding one of those old hangars or places where you can have your lab, away from civilization.
I have the same thing here, actually, but this time it's the air conditioning because, God forbid, it's actually really hot in the UK and has been for several days. So, not as hot as it's going to be. You had a heat wave, haven't you, in LA? I seem to remember it was kind of really stupidly hot recently, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway, Diego, thank you for joining us. We'll talk to you a little bit more about what you've been up to after I've introduced our guests, and also other guests, I should say. So we'll go to Mr. Mark Tinley, who is there in Bedfordshire. You might need to sit up a little bit, Mark. I'm getting the top of your head.
So I'm not sure whether... Diego or I, which one of us looks most like we're on the set of A Beautiful Mind? Because if you look behind Diego, he's got about 1 billion Post-it notes on the wall behind him. The only thing that's missing is the red string tying all the loose ends together.
And you've got I can't see Post-its, but what I can see behind you, it's either bunting or a series of very small bikinis.
It's small bikinis. I've got a harem of pygmy women here in my basement.
Probably shouldn't go into that. This is recorded.
It's a stainless steel fridge, but you can't actually see the fridge anymore. It's kind of everything that comes through the letterbox gets stuck to it with a fridge magnet.
Well, Mark,
tremendous hoarder.
Glad to have you, Mark. Mark is here, of course, lightbeing.com, sound artist and creative thinker, and also member of TV Mania. You can go and see what he's up to. TVManiamusic.co.uk, I believe. Is that right? Or is it .com? I keep forgetting. .com.
Yeah.
we'll put the link in the show notes. Anyway, Mark, thanks for joining us also. And finally, but certainly not leastly, we have Mr. Gaz Williams from sunny Bristol in a new location, in a recently reorganised office. By the looks of things, because Gaz, as we know, is getting married on Saturday, and I'm very much looking forward to the party. So I will be there.
Great. Yeah, it's that'll be a big change, I think. But excited about the show. Really pleased to be on the show with Diego. Big fan of your work, Diego. Absolutely stunning stuff.
Oh,
it's
come
brilliant.
on.
Yeah, no, really, it's amazing. It constantly takes me by surprise. And I love it. I love it so much. It's brilliant.
Well, sorry, carry on.
With with the praises. It's a very hot day here in Bristol, but it's very cloudy. So
I haven't noticed the clouds yet. But, of course, Gaz Williams is a bass player with Carl Hyde on the road, and shortly off to Japan, I believe, where you're going to be doing some more jet-setting and globe-trotting on the bass guitar.
Yeah, that's going to be a great show. That's the Fuji Rock show we're playing on a Saturday. So really excited about that. That's going to be a biggie. So yes. So we got a little rehearsal midway through my honeymoon.
How did that go down?
It's all right actually, because
darling.
Yeah. But it's just so much fun though to be playing a massive concert on my honeymoon. So it's in Japan. So it's worked out really nicely, I think.
Excellent. All right, well, thank you very much, and we'll jump straight in, because obviously the big news, really, or one part of the big news, is at least that that doesn't look like the right thing at all. Partly the big news is that it's in fact has been. I'll just switch back here because my switching's gone a bit funny. 5 years in the App Store. In fact, this very day, apparently, 2008, the 10th of July, was when it started. Obviously, for whatever reason, whether you're an Apple person or not, it has changed the face a little bit. We're talking software and apps, really. Forget about iTunes and all that kind of stuff. But the whole thing about being able to kind of just making the purchase of applications easier than pirating them in many cases, obviously in a closed environment. I just wondered if there's any if you had anything to add. I mean, Diego, presumably, as a sound designer, you must have been involved in apps in some respect, whether it's been sound design for particular apps, or maybe people probably pitching you ideas for crazy apps that you can put your name to on a daily basis, I'd imagine. But what does it mean to you?
Yes, I did some work for apps. I haven't been involved actually with musical apps. I did stuff for games and things like that. But I am definitely using a lot of apps when I do stuff, because they sound great. I mean, they're cheap, and I mean, I have my iPad loaded of all possible things, and so I don't know how it's gonna evolve, but as it is now, it's already great. And I downloaded the free Tractor DJ app.
Me too, yeah.
It was all over the place, It's like, hey, get it for free. All right, I get it for free, and then I didn't use it yet, but I'm gonna, because I already have the whatever bundle they put out. So I think it's similar, but it's nice to see something like that.
Yeah, I think that, the main thing is I've been trying to look into it. We have these various sort of doom and gloom that, if you do apps, you're not going to make any money. But I've equally found a few people who've kind of gone, well, I actually have. I've make a reasonable return on it. I guess it's just finding the right sort of thing and getting it right. And as we've said before, music apps are one of the biggest kind of areas of I think they've been responsible for why the app store has got so big, because they're these really neat, fantastic musical things that have created the successor. And it's good to see Tractor DJ. I would have liked to have seen maybe a few more instruments, maybe even an Animoog or something, because presumably Apple are foot in the bill of these free apps. They're not expecting people to bankroll their celebrations. At least I'm hoping so. But yeah, kind of big. I'm guessing, Gaz, you've probably got something you would add to this as well. I mean, it's been a pretty big sea change, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it's quite interesting as well, when you see on the promoted page of apps, when Thor came out fairly recently, Propelhead's Thor, that was kind of on the front page of the Apple, so getting lots and lots of mainstream attention. Where you think, well, when was the last time a software instrument got so much kind of mainstream attention? Did you see what I mean? So it's kind of good. I think it's promoting music technology to mainstream audiences, and they're not, and like in Thor's case, and that's not like a beginner's tool at all. That's a proper serious musical instrument. So I think that's quite an interesting thing there. And yes, I got the Tractor DJ free as well, which I haven't really looked at much. But
no, I just realised I haven't got any music on my iPad at all.
Well, it seems really silly that you can do this iTunes in the cloud malarkey, and then you can like pull down tunes as and when you need them. But it's only the Apple app, the Apple Music player that supports that functionality, which is a real shame. So something like Tractor DJ, it'd be fantastic that you can browse your iTunes library and just upload off the cloud.
Yeah, or just anything, just stick in a URL of something, or go to SoundCloud or something. Yeah, that would be awesome if you could do that.
But you can't. So this keeps.
Maybe that's what they should do. They shouldn't be doing free apps. They should just kind of go, you know what? In celebration, we're going to open the doors and just let everybody in and let's see what happens. I mean, because they don't have to kind of close their sandbox. I just want to quickly say hello to Tara Bush, who's in the chat room. I can't believe it. There she is. Hey, nice to see you here. I think that's the first time since she's actually been on the show. Tara Bush, of course, over in LA with you, I think, Diego. So,
yep. Yeah.
But yeah, nice to see her there. I mean, we can't deny that it's made a massive influence. And I know, Mark, you were kind of quite late to the iOS game, weren't you? I mean, do you think that there's any other? How much further have we got to go?
I don't know. I've had iOS on a phone for a long time, but I was very late to the iPad game because I kept thinking, well, why? What's the iPad going to give me that the phone can't? And then I sort of realised eventually, that iPad apps and iPhone apps are often quite different things, and I kind of see the benefit of having an iPad now. It's sort of becoming an integral part of my music making. But yeah, what I like about it is if I'm presented with a problem, so I'm sitting and I'm thinking I need a rhyming dictionary, and they're the kind of things that you just go and look in the App Store and you go and find 10 different free rhyming dictionaries, and you download one, and then you sit there and play around with different things, and eventually you come up with a piece of software that you like. So I must have 200 different apps on my phone probably, and then different set of applications on the iPad, and then I've sort of spread that across the two different devices now. But things like, I've got one on the phone called Vocal Warm-Up. So if I'm going to sing, I just click this vocal warm-up thing, and it takes me through a vocal warm-up. I mean, how brilliant is that? Yeah, but it's brilliant. It also instructs me on how to do it. So I find these apps are very educational because they're not trying to do anything. They're not trying to be a fully fledged, full-blown digital audio workstation. So when you pull something off the App Store for the Mac OS X, it's usually a very complex program like Pages for like writing with or whatever. These are kind of like, they're more like applets, aren't they? They're like little tiny things that do really useful things that improve your workflow, and I just think they're brilliant.
In many cases, I think you're right, and I think yes, me and Gaz have sort of explored on Sonic Touch, which is our kind of music making on touch devices show, which is sort of intermittent frequency, but maybe now I've got an iPad 4 or whatever it's called, I'll be able to do a bit more. We've discovered that when you try and make it do everything, that's when it falls down because the paradigm doesn't work. You just kind of create. But so we have been over and over that many times. So perhaps we should just wish them happy birthday and hope that in the future there's a little bit more organizational aspect put to the whole App Store thing, because it is just so swamped in content. It's very hard to release something and get it noticed. I think that's part of the big problem.
I mean, one other thing I want to say about iOS is the MIDI compatibility, the MIDI functionality, the fact that I can
Yeah.
load up all these weird and wonderful alternative controllers, and I can shake my iPad around and it sends MIDI data to my computer over Wi-Fi. I've got
Yeah,
no
that is
wires.
awesome.
I just love it.
It is awesome. I have to second that. I mean, you know, I'm a massive fan of MIDI Designer Pro, and I think it's one of the best pieces of software ever made for an iOS device, and I use it every single day. And I can very easily just kind of sit there and go, oh, actually, I need to create an interface to do that, and I can just do it. You know, I'm becoming kind of quite. And those things are superb. Those kind of morphic interface designers, so you could just create it to do what you want. So
any word on the iConnect MIDI 4?
No, I did actually ask about that, but I think it's coming in the summer. I think in the UK, I don't know who's going to distribute, so it's a question of getting hold of a unit. But I will chase that up because I would like to find out.
Well, because that unit, for the people who haven't heard about it, promises to be the missing link for integrating your iPad into a traditional studio setup with MIDI, and some of the kind of key facts of that are that when it's connected, then it actually will provide power
and an audio device as well. So you
I was going to come to that. Yeah, it provides power, it provides MIDI, and this thing called audio pass-through technology, which we're confused about at the moment because we don't know how that digital clocking side is going to work. But theoretically, it's a little USB box. You could have it connected to your computer. You could have it connected to your iPad, and that somehow you can get the digital sound through this as well, which sounds great. But I'm not entirely sure how that's going to work.
Are you saying I can pull this in on a channel strip? Oh, I've had a revelation, by the way. Mike Gregg told me to download Ableton, so I did, and I've tried it, and I'm absolutely blown away by the thing. I've not used it since about 1994 or something, 5, 6. When did it come out?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Because I said to Mike, God, I sort of vaguely remember this program, and he said, well, yeah, you got me into it about version 1 or 2, and I'd sort of said to him, Mike, you've got to get into this thing, and then I sort of went on my merry way with Logic and Pro Tools and Studio Vision and some other weird stuff. But having come back round to Ableton now, it's just like, wow, I didn't know I could do that. And the groove template stuff's just excellent. It blows Logic out of the water, actually. Just being able to get the groove off a loop and put it on another loop and then get them really tight and stuff. Amazed I am.
Awesome stuff. Diego, are you a Pro Tools guy? Is that what you're kind of mostly working in for your stuff? Because I'm guessing you're recording a lot, which is perhaps Ableton's not so geared up towards multi-channel recording as everything else.
Yes, I do. I use Pro Tools when I record multiple tracks and stuff like that. But I use Ableton Live a lot when I do real-time sound design, because Pro Tools obviously is great for recording and editing, but it's nowhere close to the flexibility and power of Ableton Live when it comes to assigning stuff, moving them around, assigning every kind of controller on the planet. So I love them both. I still have to switch to Live 9.
So I was going to say you haven't got push or anything like that.
Yeah, no, it's because you see, I have my relationship with technology is not as intense as it should be, because I use what I get. Meaning, for example, when I was working on Chernobyl Diaries, okay, I wanted to use the Animoog inside the score. I didn't even bother looking for an interface or a MIDI interface or even finding out how this thing is going to work. I just played it and recorded it as an instrument.
Sure.
And pretty much I do the same way. If I am not in a situation where I can't get it done, I just do it the way I can. But Ableton Live, the 9, I'm looking for it. I'm looking forward to trying it because I don't use it with MIDI.
I just use audio clip, right?
Audio.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting stuff.
Because I don't use MIDI much in general, but I'm interested trying to see if they changed a couple things in the audio the way the audio is managed inside when you record, when you stop. There were some things that I couldn't figure out. But again, that didn't stop me from using it. I still use it. I don't do looping, for example, because it distracts me from what I'm doing. I try to multitask. I can't. So
Well, you're already kind of working on a lot of different things at the same time. In fact, we're going to come to that shortly after, because I've got an ad break to interject, but we're going to come and talk about your latest composition. Well, the latest upload. It may not be your latest composition. Shortly. So if you stay with us, we're just going to say thank you very much to our sponsors, who are Isotope. Isotope, of course, have been, they've been sponsoring the show for quite some time now, and we've been through Trash and... that was the last week. This week we're talking about Stutter Edit. Stutter Edit is an effect you can play like any instrument, made in conjunction with BT, Brian Transu, remixed in real time on stage or production in the studio, controlled by MIDI, includes over 800 presets as well as free expansions, cutting edge audio slicing and manipulation. You can reinvent your music and sound design with effects, filters, limitless beat juggling and new sonic possibilities. Practical applications too. You can build fills for dance music, create stingers for radio programs and more. You can download a free 10-day demo at Isotope for Stutter Edit, isotope.com/Stutter Edit. Please go ahead and do that. And of course, as has been traditional with this campaign, there is a prize to be given. There's over 800 presets as well. A prize to be given away. In fact, this week you can win a copy of Stutter Edit. But first, last week's competition winner was Trash. I asked, what's the best thing you found in the trash, basically, the most sort of useful musical. Diego, you obviously couldn't possibly have been able to join this because you found so many musically relevant things in the trash, I'm sure, or found items that you couldn't possibly enter. But, in fact, what I found is this chap called Synth Factory CH commented, this 5 day, I don't know if this is true or not, but he said, I found 2 MS-20s in a skip in the 90s. Which I don't even know if it's true, but I sort of want it to be. I want it to be so much that I'm prepared to give him the prize. So if I will get in touch with him via YouTube, so he wins a copy of Isotope Trash 2. Yes, the Isotope Fairy will be in touch. But in the meantime, if you want to win a copy of Stutter Edit, we've got another competition. Now, what I'm looking for is in the comments, you leave them below the comments, either in YouTube or on the Sonic State site, depending on where you're watching this. I want a playlist of 5 stuttery songs. Okay, so you choose 5 stuttery kind of songs, and that could be the Orbs' Little Fluffy Clouds, which has got a bit of re-triggering and stuttering on the little. So that I'd count that as stuttery. Or the Who, My Generation, which he actually stutters for real in that. So I want a list of 5 songs that have stutters in the in the comments below, and the best playlist will win a copy of Isotope Stutter Edit. So that's it for now. Stay tuned. But once again, we thank Isotope for their sponsorship of the show, and go and download your free 10-day trial. So we're going to come straight to Diego's tune now. This is basically, I'll play a little bit of it. I'm trying to get it into frame because I couldn't download this video. You've very wisely protected it there, so I'm going to press play on there, and hopefully we can hear all of that. Awesome right there. Thank you very much, Diego. That was something. It was very sort of almost bleak and futuristic coffee. What's the kind of what was the inspiration of doing that? Do you just kind of hear a sound and go, right there, I'm off, and you go, or how does it kind of take shape, something like that?
Yeah, it happens like that. In this specific case, this was an extra video that I created when I did this series for DTS called Sound Magician. They named it Sound Magician. And so the idea was to create a sound and then have people guessing somehow how it was made. But then the series changed, so it became more like a free form kind of thing. And so when I was thinking about ideas for these sounds, the idea was to make sound in high definition, obviously. So to make them sound huge and very detailed. So I thought, why not, making sound how I make coffee? But what you see there, it's actually the worst possible coffee in the world.
Your coffee suffered for your art.
Oh my God. So first of all, you can see I put some microphones inside the cup. Those are like industrial components. So they have like a plastic coating in the back, and it started to melt.
Tasty.
Yeah, and also that's a 12 espresso size machine. If I drink that, I'm just gonna explode. So, and then everything was exaggerated: the amount of sugar, the amount of shaking, the amount of moving around.
Wow. Yeah. There was a lot of sugar in there too.
It was insane. I mean, I had to throw away the microphones at the end because they were encrusted in sugar. I mean, they were partially melted and with sugar on top. It was.
So how do you? So I mean, we've discussed this with you before when you've been on the show. I mean, obviously there are casualties in your work. So in this case, it was what, 3 of those custom kind of underwater mics.
4.
4.
They were 2 per. I built them so that I had the 2 per cable. It wasn't really stereo. It was more like twice the amount of capsules on the same connector.
Okay, I got you.
Yeah, but this is stuff that it's cheap to find on online. There's various websites where you can find these things. I just try everything, and so.
So how do you? What do you use for preamps for stuff like that?
Oh, I go through my API rack. I have a 512Cs, and then the EQ and the compressor. I mean, when it comes to microphones, yeah, I can do some experiments with some, sketchy stuff. But when it comes to preamps, I like to go with something that I know sounds great, especially when you're working with quiet sources.
Yeah, you need low noise, right?
Yeah, so you got to make sure that the rest of the audio chain is as clear as possible.
I was also a little worried for that mic that was hovering over the steam output.
No, I tell you this. I started as a customer with Rode back in 2003, I think. And then I started making a lot of experiments and things. And finally, Rode wrote me when they say, if you need anything extra, let us know. I said, thank you guys, because I basically burned the capsules of the NT5s with the burning piano and then other things. So luckily, they provide me some microphones sometimes. If I break them, I go, by the way, and
I bet that's an endorsement deal they really regret at the end of the
year. Can I ask you a question, Diego?
Sorry? Yeah.
Do you ever what sample rate do you work at, and do you find that higher sample rates kind of work better for the smaller sounds?
The basic starting rate, it's 48K. That's the regular that I use, because when you start doing stuff for films, you use 48 and then you just continue with that. Sure. I use higher sample rates only if I know that I'm gonna do some sound design tricks on it, meaning transposing stuff down a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Otherwise.
But you'd go up in increments of 48, so you go to 96.
Yeah, I go 96 and then 192. Yeah, but unless I am creating something that, you see, the point is, even if I create music at 96 kilohertz, who's gonna listen to at that rate? How do you distribute the music that way?
I hear you.
I mean, Peter Gabriel actually did something very nice. He released a special edition record that had a USB key inside that contained the 96 kilohertz 24-bit version of the album, and I got it right away because he's Peter Gabriel. But I don't think people would be that interested in a 96 kilohertz version of Huge Coffee. I mean,
Well, it'd be
maybe
on the plus side, it'd be quite a small download because it's a shorter, it's a shorter item, I guess.
Yeah.
I was just curious to wonder if you'd noticed much of a difference in the actual sound quality of things if you record at a higher sample rate.
Well, there is a difference, but again, if it stays in my room, it's for my enjoyment, okay? And then what happens when it goes out, I like Bandcamp, for example. It's this website where you can distribute your music and everything, because I like the fact that you can download also a lossless format, because when you go with an MP3 at 190 kilobyte per second, it basically kills your bass, and it kills the stereo field a little bit. So it's funny when people compare the vinyl and the MP3s, they go, wow, vinyl is still fantastic. Yes, because you're comparing it with a crappy MP3, but if you compare a vinyl with a very nice digital format, you will tell the difference. Yes, there is this nostalgic factor connected to it, but the fact is you cannot compare a vinyl with an MP3. Vinyl is analog. MP3, when it's compressed, it's bad digital. So that's how I feel about this.
Do you master the stuff in your videos carefully to make sure that the nuance that you want to be in focus comes out, or do you do that more at the mix stage?
Yes. The everything regarding the audio part, it's meticulously done in the sense that I am, really trying to get the everything sound the way I want, and I make sure that it sounds good also on a laptop. Because for videos, not everybody. I think actually the majority of people, they don't have big speakers or anything. So for example, in this video that you heard, there's a lot of low end that you can appreciate if you have a set of speakers connected. But if you don't, you play it and you go, okay, this is like a regular coffee.
Yeah.
Yes and no, because you're listening through regular speakers. I mean, the speakers of your laptop, which they don't have I don't know what's the cutoff, but
pretty low, pretty high up. I'd imagine almost into the mids. I should. Oh, that's very interesting. So, and you've been working on the other project, which is the post-civilization custom-built orchestra, which sounds very interesting. And is that kind of the way that you're? If I go, I think I've got a screen capture here. Is that what you're trying to do to kind of commercialize your skills, I suppose, in a way, because you've created this very unique sounding set of sounds, and then you've created this music which it's not going to sound like anything else because it's coming from all these other sources that nobody else has got.
The idea for these tracks, these are I wanted to do some trailer music because I've done it in the past, and I like the idea of doing more, but then I started doing things more like, you know what, I don't really care about if this is trailer or not. I just want to record it this way. But one thing that you mentioned, the sound, and then I use the sound to make the composition. Actually, what I'm doing with the custom built orchestra, it's not sampling. I don't sample anything. It's just I play stuff as I need to play them.
It's like processed performing. Is that kind of how you would describe it?
Yeah, in a way, yes, because some instruments I keep them very clean, some others I transform them completely, but there isn't a moment at the beginning where I don't play things from the keyboard. I play them from the instrument itself or from whatever shape this thing has.
What is your kind of your bass instrument, if you like? What is it that you are a proficient musician at? I mean, would you say, where are you coming at? Is it stringed instruments that you're coming at, or percussive?
It's piano. Yeah, piano. I know. I studied a little bit, so I know scales and things like that. So when I look at the keyboard, I know what I'm doing. But I found that I cannot write music for the Xperia bass on the piano,
right?
Because it doesn't make no sense. It doesn't translate the potential of the instrument, because on the keyboard you play one key and then, okay, that's the bass line. But then when you're actually playing the Xperia bass, there's a lot of noise, there's a lot of rattles and stuff going on. And to me, these things, they cannot be translated with a different interface,
Yeah, Okay.
That's the nature of the instrument. You know, you can sample it and simulate the way it behaves, but why do I have to sample that I have the real thing? You know?
Yeah, well, of course. Yeah, absolutely got you there. I'm just trying to find a picture of it now. This is your Xperia bass right here, which is a sort of, well, it's like it's a kind of equivalent of the Led Zeppelin Stairway to Heaven dual neck SG, but it's got 3. So it's got. So are you really a closet? Do you have to put your foot up on a monitor to get the best out of that, and kind of, you know? Are you a closet rock guitarist trying to break free through this instrument, or is it came from a different place?
Maybe, because the thing is, I'm not a double bass player anyway. So when I built the instrument, I had this gigantic thing in front of me, and I thought, okay, now what? So the idea was to build an instrument to feel what happens in real life with you know, when you do physical modeling, that you can extend the size of an instrument. So you can say, I want to have a trumpet that is like a mile long, and see what happens. But then I thought, okay, what if I do that experiment in real life? So what if I connect violin strings on the body of a double bass? And so that was the beginning. And then after I built it, I thought, so what do I do now? Because I can't really play it. I don't know the finger techniques so I just went with what made sense to me in that specific moment. Now I can play it a little better, but still I don't play it as a double bass. I still play it from the front with one finger. But I can apply much more pressure on the strings and with the bow than a traditional technique, because I'm you know, holding it in the worst, you know, I'll show you. There's people actually complaining online because they say your
bowing technique sucks. Yeah,
it sucks because you hold it like a hand-fisted thing. But this is how I need to do it to really make those sounds happen the way they happen. Otherwise, it would sound very gentle, and I'm not into that. I cannot play it. I mean, I can play it rough.
It leads to another question, actually. Have you ever found that you've put this time and effort into a concept of an instrument, and then when it comes down to it, it actually just doesn't really do anything for you, and you have to kind of you have to go back to the drawing board, or is it more? Is there a kind of longer process so that it will always yield interesting results?
Well, probably. Well, when I was a kid, I broke a lot of stuff. I mean, I was just taking apart a guitar, getting very excited along the process, and then, okay, now what is this? I mean, this is nothing anymore. And then I thought, okay, I'm gonna put it back then, and I couldn't. So I ended up with a bunch of stuff on the floor, and that was it. Now I kind of have a sense of what I'm doing, so I don't really go to the extent of building something complete without having an idea of how I'm gonna play it. So
okay.
Luckily, yes, I improved.
Well fielded, sir. There was my question. So, do you screw up really badly? And it's like, not anymore. That's a great answer.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, the thing that I like about these custom-built instruments is that you cannot expect them to sound or respond as a traditionally optimized instrument, because they are not optimized in any sense.
Sure.
So basically, you have an instrument in front of you, you do something, you record something, and then there is the recording process, of course. So it's a learning experience that pushes me into trying something different. I actually have a video in the works in these days that I don't know when I'm going to publish it exactly, because I want to see if I'm going to put it out before the summer or after the summer. But anyway, it's an instrument that if you look at it, you go, what is this? I mean, it's just funny looking, you know. But then I figured out ways of playing it that actually make sense.
Do you have to figure out? Do you think about what it looks like as well? Because a lot of your products are video based. Do you have to kind of do something? Because there might be something that just looks like nothing but sounds great, but that's not. It's not quite the same impact, I guess.
Yeah, sometimes I am inspired visually, so I start from the visual idea, and then it becomes something that I can actually play. But I don't really have a rule that I always go one way or the other.
Sure.
It's a random process. Sometimes, you know, I build instruments and then I take them apart because I needed the parts. For example, yeah, because if I am in a hurry and I need the machine gear for the guitar, I look around and I go, well, that one is not really that precious.
Oh wow, that's interesting. I like the idea of that. Just kind of, this isn't a mad. Mark, I was just going to ask you because basically you did a lot of circuit bending, didn't you? I mean, and I'm guessing there's a lot of effort that goes into that, but then it can just come up with nothing meaningful whatsoever. So do you find that you kind of know what you're doing with that, or do you just kind of?
Oh, no, I've absolutely no idea at all. I just connect a wire at one end to somewhere on a chip and then have the other end. You know, a nice way of doing it is to take old multimeter cords because they've got the pointy bits at the end.
Yeah.
So I might solder one on, you know, one end of a wire on and then wrap the wire together, and then I've got the pointy bit, and then I just start playing the keyboard and touching it on different things and see what happens. And then if I find an interesting connection, I'll solder another piece of wire and then put it in a connector so I can short that out and make a connection or have a switch or something. And I just poke around inside the keyboard doing that. Of course, it's possible to blow things up.
Yeah, I was saying it's probably best to stick to 12 volts.
Don't connect the power supply, you know, any of the power supply stuff into the main circuit. But on SK1s, it's fairly simple because you've got all the bits down the side of the main chip in the SK1. Each one of the legs of the chip is a different audio bit. So if it's 8 bits, you've got bit 1, bit 2, bit 3, bit 4, bit 5, bit 6, bit 7, bit 8. And if you start shorting the bits out, it basically chops the sample up and starts doing weird stutter things, actually.
Okay.
But I haven't discovered, I'm going back to isotope stutter, having discovered that, I have to say I haven't switched the circuit bending stuff on as much because that stutter plugin is absolutely brilliant.
Well,
and
will
it
you look
does
at that?
a lot of those things, and they're more controllable, and I can kind
repeatable.
of like
I suppose you can save them. Yeah.
So,
Have you ever been tempted to do any circuit bending, or is all your stuff in the physical world, Diego?
I did a couple of things with electronics. I built this instrument called LCO, which is basically an optical theremin. But the thing that bothered me about the optical theremin is that it reacts with the amount of light you have outside.
So it only works in the dark.
oh,
You turn it on and you basically just look at this thing. So I built a case where I enclose the circuit inside, and then I put a light bulb in it, and I can control the light bulb intensity with the knob. And I also built an on-off switch, so I have at least on and off notes and the pitch. Because otherwise it's kind of pointless to me. But I didn't do like classic circuit bending. You know what I was thinking, but they're gonna kill me if I do it.
I see you got a sub fatty there, yeah.
I got a sub fatty because
do it. You know you want to.
I thought, what if I do some crazy stuff inside?
Yeah.
Yay!
They're gonna kill me.
I'm moving into your world perhaps as well, because I rang up a company in Scotland today, and they sell US Army Jeep jerry cans on eBay. And I rang them up and said, look, excuse me, I know this is an odd request, but can I kind of hand pick a jerry can? I want a really rusty one. And they were like, what? And so I've been watching YouTube videos of these jerry can guitars, you know, the gas can guitar. Yeah. So I'm going to make one of those.
That sounds good.
Successful.
Yeah, you might be interested in looking at the choices of pickups that there are out there, because you know, besides the physical structure of the guitar, you have to think about how to amplify the sound, and there's a lot of options.
I want it to have acoustic guitar properties as well as be an electric guitar, because I like that kind of big open metal sound that you get out of a jerry can.
So you're not thinking to amplify it with a pickup?
No, I was actually thinking about ripping my Line 6 Variax guitar to bits and putting the Variax electronics inside it.
There are cheaper ways of doing that. Much cheaper.
I like the sound of that, though.
I mean, I kind of figured, and then I'd stick one of those fish. Has anybody tried that Fishman Tripleplay? Because one of the people in the chat room had sent me an email and said, that I should try it. But what I
supposed to be
can't
very
work
good.
out with the Fishman triple play pickup is whether or not it sends an analog guitar signal to the computer as well as a MIDI guitar signal.
Oh, I don't know. I tell you what's funny,
though.
At my child's school fete this weekend, I was chatting to one of the parents, and he said, "Oh, you need to speak to a chap. I can't remember what his name was. He's just moved into the area, and his son or daughter goes to this school, and he's the software designer for the Fishman Triple Play, who lives literally round the corner from me somewhere, whose daughter or child goes to the same school as mine. So that's just sort of fairly random. So I'm hoping I
thought they were an American company.
Yes, I think he's just come to the. That's all I know.
Maybe I need to be introduced to him then.
Well, maybe that's possible.
I
Yeah.
mean, but if you think about what the triple play is, they ought to have a similar thing to the Line 6 Variax, because they're pulling the audio off the back of the guitar. If they had like a similar setup, but it was at the other end of the transmission process, so I plug my USB receiver into my laptop, and then the software comes up on the screen, and then I can make my guitar tones in the software on my laptop, and then I don't have to carry any leads or anything. That would be brilliant. Because where the Line 6 guitar falls down is if I power it off batteries, the batteries go flat pretty quick. If I power it off the power supply and then I really overdrive, have an overdriven guitar sound, the power supply noise comes through on the guitar, so I get hum on it. So I'm forever sort of wrestling between the batteries or, you know, what's going on with the power supply or the batteries, and trying to get the damn thing to sort of...
I'm sure there must be. I'm sure. I mean, it's supposed to be quite a revolutionary product. I don't know anything about it, but
the Variax or the Fish,
I know the Fishman.
yeah.
But it's worth looking at for sure, definitely.
But I mean, I just want to get. I was thinking I want to get as many options as possible into a gas can guitar, so maybe have a synth in it as well.
Excellent.
And to sort of create this kind of, you know, monster.
It could be a steel drum at the same time, couldn't it?
Guitar, you know, like, yeah, it could be.
And also a handy receptacle for petrol if you break down on the way to a gig and you run out.
I want to put. That's not going to work, because I want to put an American car hubcap on the front to get that kind of resonator guitar look.
Wow.
So if any of our American friends have a spare hubcap kicking around in their garage, and they want to send it to me, and they think it would look good on the front of a guitar, I'd appreciate that.
That sounds awesome. In fact, there was a news item I spotted on Facebook. I forget where it came. I think it was Maff, actually. Maff, Tara's other half, who's in the chat room. He posted on his Facebook that there was this dealership in the US, in Nebraska, and they had 500 mint, like old caddies and old, you know, just basically these warehouses full of them. And there's all these shots of the dashboard with like there's 4 miles on the clock and 10 miles on the clock. And there's just tons and tons of them. They're selling the whole lot. There's a company selling them. Some great pictures of these really dusty old cars, but with absolutely pristine interior and no miles on the clock at all. It's just fascinating.
I mean, ideally, I want a completely beaten up, rusty, really, you know, some kind of characterful arts to put on it. I'd quite like to have an inbuilt New York taxicab horn as well. I mean, if I powered the thing from a lithium battery as well, if I put lithium, like a MacBook Pro battery or something like that inside it, so I've got lots of power in there, I could put all sorts of stuff in it.
You certainly could.
Big space.
That sounds very interesting. I'd like to hear more about that as that project comes along. But perhaps what we could do now is come on to the this sort of. I recently had a project where I had to come up with some beats, and I haven't done it for ages. And I just thought, how am I doing this? I don't remember how I start, because I've recently taken delivery of Native Instruments Ultimate Collection, so I've got a whole bunch of battery sounds and what have you. But I just sort of found myself floundering a bit, because I couldn't remember how I used to do it. And I think it was I would create like maybe a set of sounds that I like the sound of, and then I would work with those and kind of create. So I'd have a vibe instantly that I'd already made those creative decisions. And I'm guessing, for Diego, this must be very applicable to you, because you create, you maybe hear a sound like there's the leaf on the turntable, which I thought was very ironic, considering our last conversation about the leaf blower man. He could be collecting the finest leaves for you, and you've been dissing him all this time. But anyway, and I wonder how you kind of create something from when you're actually discovering the sound as you go, because it's even less sort of pre-made, and so quite hard to create those sort of bits. I don't know how you tend to work that way.
Well, I think I am doing like a psychotherapy journey through the things that bother me, and then I transform that into music. And this was the example of the guy with the leaf blower. But something that I thought was interesting about this topic is that to me, the sound is the groove, meaning that if I hear something and then I build a certain groove around it, if you replace the elements, the groove itself doesn't move the way it moved before. It's kind of an obvious thing to say, but at the same time, it's like saying you get those groove, you build a structure in MIDI, okay, and then you start to replace sounds around. Yes, you can get some interesting results, but to me, what's proven to be more effective is once you find a source that you like, what is the groove inside that source? And also, what I try to do with these new videos that you've seen, I don't do sampling. So I basically take an element like a leaf, I rub it on the turntable, and that's it. Meaning
do you stop when you found something? Go, oh, that loops nicely. That feels like it's got.
Oh, that's what I do. Yeah. I recorded like an hour of stuff, and 50 minutes of it was nothing. It was just like I like, all right. But the remaining 10 minutes were like gold. They were like really cool stuff. So I collected the best out of that session, if you want to call it session.
Right.
and put it together in a way that resembles a loop. And then I chopped a couple elements very short to create the bass drum and the snare drum. But I like to basically let the element in front of me tell me what's the music.
Well, that's interesting. So you go for the sort of splurge of creative performance, and then there's a different process for putting it all together again. I see. Yeah.
Yeah. Because otherwise, I don't know. I'm not sure about starting to build like a set of MIDI grooves and then start replacing sounds around. It doesn't work for me. I know that it works in the context of when you produce music in a certain way because a certain snare drum doesn't cut. All right. Yeah. But when you do these kind of experimental videos, I like to keep the true nature of this video as pristine as possible. Even if it's a sound design thing, even if it's sounding very processed at the end, still, what was the original source?
There's a moment. I know, Gaz. Yeah. Gaz, I know that you're because we've done stuff with you in the past where it's like the 5-minute song, what have you. I mean, I get the impression you like to work quite fast initially and then perhaps go back to it. But I'm making a massive supposition there. So, I mean, how does that work for you? I'm thinking kind of beats and what have you. Do you start with a groove or do you tend to start elsewhere? But then how do you just kind of throw something down that does and then fix it later, or what? How do you work?
Yeah, I work in so many different ways. Every time I do something, I generally do something a little bit different than the time I've done it before, which is sometimes a bit counterproductive, but I don't really have a fixed way of doing stuff. Recently, I bought all the expansion packs for the Native Instruments machine because they were on offer, and then sort of loaded them all in and then just went, oh. I don't actually get inspired that much by that kind of thing, but it's kind of nice to have that. But I mean, now I've got 10,000 bass drums and
just what you need.
And it's weird that doesn't really inspire me very much. However, on certain,
if I may say, if you remember back in the early days of sampling, that was the way to go. There were best service CDs called 1,000 kick drums, 1,000 snares, and things like that. I think we're just past that point.
I agree. I agree. I mean, I recently got the Teenage Engineering OP1, and I love it. And I kind of just sample things, and the little microphone in that is surprisingly good. So you can kind of just just hit on things to, a little bit of a Diego Stocco approach, just hitting all sorts of stuff, looking for things. And I do find that does inspire me a lot more with these little sounds or these little things than these big, huge multi-sample whatnots, which have increasingly...
I suppose the thing about that is that's great, but then you have to spend a certain amount of time at some point making it into something playable, whether you just put it on the timeline and put it in rhythmic sense, or whether you sample it and then play it. And that's that again is a different part of your brain, isn't it?
Just coming back to the question about where the inspiration and where you get going, I think I could then later turn to the machine or the Ableton Live or whatever, and then use the various techniques to then hone in on stuff. I mean, I've mentioned this before on the show, something that I've been increasingly doing and I really just love so much is just recording a drummer playing in free time without any click track, and just good drummers, good musicians playing either with other musicians or just on their own, bringing that into Cubase, using the new function in Cubase that extracts all the works out the whole time grid to the real-time performance. And then I start playing with something like the machine, which inspires me no end then, because the grid is this constantly adjusting thing, rather than it being the block grid, which is like in computer time, because it's in the free time of the performance. I love the kind of that sort of juxtapositioning of the very grid-based thing that the machine is with this human evolving thing. And it's really interesting, because you put in a little 1-bar loop on, and
even that has some life.
It just comes alive, and then the whole process of it just becomes inspiring to me then. Before, or if I was just to go to, say, maybe the machine and be locked into sort of everything just in this rigid, it bores the pantaroonies off me. It really does. I'm just so I think it is interesting time, and I totally agree with Diego that we have moved on quite a lot now, and that's exciting for me. I love the fact now I feel, using that Cubase technique, is that musicians are in charge of the grid. 20 years we've been suppressed by grid lock. And like drummers have been kind of written off because they can't play to the grid, but I've been playing with them as a bass player. I love the way that they move and that they're dynamic forward and back in tempo and slow and push and pull. But then when you put them down in a studio thing, they have to conform to the click because the click makes everything easy. The producers all want it to the click because it saves them time. They can go and do all their cocaine and pub or whatever it is. So they're getting everyone.
Not anymore.
Everyone to do.
Not anymore.
I just love that. I love the feel. I love the idea that that grid-based thing just becomes a human.
Yeah, that's a very interesting thing, Mark. When you're doing, I know that you tend to work quickly, and do you use Apple loops? I'm trying to remember, because I remember when you work primarily within Logic for composition, right?
What happens with me is I go to do some work on the computer. So last night I did a remix for someone recently, and the guy said to me, "Can you send me stems of everything?" So I was just like, right, okay. So I sat in front of the computer and I set the thing up, and it was making stems. So then suddenly the computer's not available to me, and the next thing available to me is an electric guitar, which is sitting at the back of the room. So I picked that up, plugged it in. This was about 12:15 at night, I hasten to add. So the machine's still making stems, and I'm just strumming around on the guitar. And then I was like, oh, this is good. Oh, I like this. And then I had to stop making stems, and then I opened a session in Logic and just basically played to a click and started throwing a song together. And within about an hour and a half, I had a song. And it always starts with, I'll just be noodling around and something will catch my ear, and I'll go, oh, that's new. I've not done that before. Where did that come from? Then it becomes like absolutely compelled to do something with it, and I can't sort of help myself. And then whatever's to hand and whatever makes that process work as quickly as possible. So it's about, you know, finding things that I hear that capture my ear in the same way that that initial riff captured my ear, and then dropping those things in. And it's sort of, it's part chance, part the key skill is not my playing ability. I can play, but I'm not a virtuoso. But the key skill is listening and hearing things and going, that works, and dropping it into the session. And so sometimes it's Apple loops, sometimes it's stuff out of Contact. Quite often it's G-Force synths. Sometimes I will turn to the V-synth or whatever's to hand, really, and whatever feels like it's the next thing. There's a gut instinct to like grab something in the room that's the next thing to go to, and it just kind of goes like that.
I'm guessing the thing is so, for instance, if you go to Contact and you say it could be that, presumably there is a core sort of thread of stuff that you might use, because I mean there are millions and millions of samples, you know, tens of thousands. How do you know where to start with that? Or do you just go, yeah, that kick, that's fine, you know, that's
you have
thing.
You have to have these kind of, I've always done this weird noodling, these weird noodling sessions. You have to have, it's not always about creating music. Sometimes it's about doing a little bit of housekeeping. And the housekeeping is sitting down with a program and going through all your sounds. If you don't do that, you don't know where anything is. So with Apple loops, it's overwhelming. So sometimes I'll do it by name. With Ableton Live 9, which I just got, I actually flicked through every single sound in the whole thing the other night, just playing around with it, going like, right, what's here? And then that's in the back of your mind, and then you sort of think, oh, hang on, there's a sound in Ableton that might work for this, and then you go in there and you get it. So, which is why these massive sound libraries, when somebody says to you, oh, I've got this massive sound library,
it's meaningless.
I kind of like go, yeah, okay, great, well, that's good, but I don't know what's in it. So, and then I go, I want a snare that sounds like this, and if they can't interpret what you're trying to get across, actually, if somebody says, I want a snare that sounds like the snare on, let's say, I don't know, the beginning of Simple Minds, I'll go like, okay, well, let's just go on bloody YouTube and get that snare and just sample it straight off the record or the CD, or sample it straight off YouTube if that's what it takes, and we'll just brighten it up and clean it up, put fresh reverb on it, you know. So, you know, if they know what the sound, if they know the sound that they want, you're just going.
If you can get it, yeah. Well, I suppose, yeah. I suppose that's an interesting point. Well, interesting insights into how that works. That's I'm glad that we.
I'm afraid I'm going to have to go because I need to take a child to a school play now. So I'm going to have to.
Well, I appreciate that, Mark. Thank you.
Thank you for your.
No, thank you. Likebeing.com, Mark Tinley. Thank you very much for joining us. If you hang up, then there will be two, and then we
brilliant.
can. But have a good.
I'll see you all.
Have a good school play. Take care.
Excellent.
Bye.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye. Bye.
So I suspect we're kind of getting near to the end of the show, and I appreciate you hanging in there. It was a very interesting discussion we've had on all these aspects of everything, which is, I like that. And I'm glad to see that you've perked up very well there, Diego. You look wide awake now. I think we must have stimulated you enough to kind of bring you out of your sleepy condition.
Especially Mark's last comment about going on YouTube and stuff.
Well, I mean, I suppose it's, you know, it's a way. I guess it's the path of least resistance in many cases, isn't it? That's kind of.
You see that, but to me, that's the antithesis of how I work.
Yeah.
Because I cannot work like. I mean, I actually don't like the idea of sampling stuff from other people's records.
It's already started.
Oh, but I've been sampling things, though, Diego, off YouTube. Of like, there was this fantastic wedding in Northern Ireland, and somebody fell over somebody fell over. Some woman fell over. It was a really random wedding that I found just on YouTube, but then I sampled all the guests reacting to her falling over, and they're all going, whoa! And then when you pitch that down, and it just sounds like this ridiculous chaos of all these people.
No. I understand. I understand that there are some happy accidents happening out of that. But to me, for example, how many young producers, you know, they call themselves producers in these days, actually know how to record something? You know, how do if they know how to use a mic, a preamp, and thing. And the problem is that they probably don't know that well because they don't have to learn. Because if you can go on YouTube and sample someone else's work, you are missing out on the opportunity to learn how to create your own.
Yeah.
This is not about, the copyright issue, which is an issue, but then it's another issue. This is about what you are getting out of the experience as a musician and as a person that learns things. You're missing out because you don't have to. But if you learn how to use microphones, you can record whatever crosses your your life. That's
true.
why I love this approach better than, obviously sampling. I do sampling for instruments, that, but I like the fact that when you record some basic sound engineering techniques, it really frees you, and really you can do whatever you like then. That's my opinion about this thing.
The thing I'm looking to do in the near future now is I want to get, I've been thinking, I've been lusting after a 4-track or an 8-track, maybe like a reel to reel, and then I sort of realized actually it's not that I'm lusting after. What I'm lusting after is a multi-track recorder that doesn't involve a computer, and it's one of these things, these standalone like digital recorders that used to be sort of very common, and now there's the only people who are making them now are Zoom and Tascam. They're the only guys who've actually, well, Boss are doing some of the sort of like smaller ones, but like serious, to be able to record with multiple inputs, and presumably they're the only people making them because the market has really kind of reduced. But yeah, so but then I look at what's available, and there's nothing that's quite right. But in a way, for me, a lot of that is to return back to my roots, really, of my audio engineering, when I was playing around with microphones and just getting things right, and and not having the computer process that kind of just lets you I call it the realm of the infinite adjustability.
No, I agree with you. Even in the realm of sound engineering, something that, this is my perception, because I talk to, I get feedback and I get questions about my work and things, and I feel like there's a sort of I don't know if I am good enough to be my own sound engineer, to try my own thing. But the point is, you don't have to start from a point of excellence, and if you're not there, you can't do it. You can start from zero and build up. There's the beauty of learning. It's exactly there. You learn, and you use what you have, you know what you do, and then one day you go, oh, by the way, if I do this differently, then it sounds better. So the process of learning these things, it's, in my opinion, very important when it comes to how you make music, how you record your sounds and everything, because when you learn these things, they become yours. And something that became yours is much more powerful than something that you happen to use out of necessity in that specific moment.
I think you're absolutely right, and also it stays within the physical realm rather than any other realm, and that has a very different when you do things physically, it has a very different relation. It's the same way that I feel about a real synthesizer rather than a virtual one. I can't, much as I enjoy it, it's the hardware interface that I find get the most pleasure from, and is the most intuitive to use.
There's something that I need to tell you, that in these days, the Sub Fatty, they're going to release an editor for it.
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
it's incredible because you can program sounds from the editor or from the Sub Fatty at the same time, because they talk to each other in real time. So it kind of blurs the line between hardware versus software, because you are programming a software, but you are actually playing it through a piece of hardware, and it's not a controller. It's actually the machine that generates the sound.
Yeah.
So it's an interesting experience, because I was finding myself tweaking things on the screen and then tweaking the filter on this. So it's an interesting approach,
Yeah, most definitely. Well, I've got one in for review. I'm going to get around to it one of these days. When the temperature drops a little bit, I might be able to force myself to turn the air conditioning off and shut the windows. But because unlike the cardioid mic I'm using here, all of the clip-on mics are omni, so you get masses. Any ambient noise you get, you can't use cardioid for lavaliers because there's too much bass and directionality, so you get a bit more freedom. I'm not sure anybody's interested in that, but I thought I'd mention it anyway. I'm making a really crap excuse for not getting on with finishing the review, but I will do at some point, get around to it. I think we're probably, speaking of finishing, this is probably a good point to leave. We kind of meandered through some interesting topics there, even though I'm pleased to say there are a few left on the list, so I can use them next week instead, because they're very hard to find in the summer, I have to say. But Diego, I want to thank you tremendously for joining us. That was really great for you to come down. Thank you very much.
Gaz. Was and also Mark. It was great chatting with you guys again.
Yeah, always welcome. And where people should go to diegostocco.com to see what you're up to at all times and subscribe to your Vimeo and all of those things, right?
Well, if they like to see some madness going on.
Of course they do. That's why they're watching this. But thank you very much indeed, Diego. And I hope you have a rest of the day is fruitful for you.
You too. Thank you, guys.
Cheers. And also, thank you very much to Gaz Williams over there in Bristol. I will see you physically at the weekend. Looking forward to that.
Yes.
So, yes, and have a great week. Thank you for joining us too.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye, everyone.
Great. Well, that's it for this week. I'm going to sign off now and press the stop button.